Okay, so perhaps, I would say likely, the strangest law in the Parsha, and among the strangest laws in the Torah, full stop, is the Sotah. Yeah, the Sotah is really...
Drink.
It's really quite a strange law. So we can't necessarily go through everything, but let's try to make some of the salient points. A lot of what I'm going to say is from Rav Samet. Okay. The first thing to note, and often you'll hear academics like talking about this, that the Sotah is trial by ordeal. So trial by ordeal was a relatively common practice in the ancient world, and even not in the ancient world, whereby you, in order to see whether someone was guilty of a crime, you would torture them, essentially, and either see if they survived or see how they healed. And if they healed nicely, they would be declared innocent. You had versions of this with witches, right? We'll throw you in the water, and if you drown, then you're not a witch, But your name will be cleared, right? All types of various things. So academics will sometimes point to Sotah and say, Sotah is an ancient barbaric practice of trial by ordeal or something like that. It's not, for obvious reasons that just take anyone who actually reads the Parsha to realize, which is, and then once you realize the differences, you see the extent to which the Torah is acting as a corrective on the trial by ordeal. The classic trial by ordeal, you put someone in actual physical danger or actually harmed them, right? And then they would prove their innocence either by being miraculously saved or being healed. But you would, burn them and then watch the way their burn healed. That if it healed well, declare them innocent. Sotah, you give them water, which is innocuous by physical standards.
It's waterproof.
Right.
It's waterproof. It's
right.
Paper in it? No.
What? I mean, it's not dangerous. That's the thing. Is what makes it dangerous is God, right? You're not putting them through an ordeal, right? You're telling them to drink water, right? Right. The reason we think of it as, the reason it resembles ordeal is because, if the person's guilty, then their stomach will explode, and all the things that we hear in Sotah. But fundamentally, this is a very significant divergence from trial by ordeal, where you're not putting them in any danger in a natural basis, right? Like in the natural order of the world, you're not putting them in danger. You're giving them something which is totally, completely innocuous. It's just that God, uniquely in this halacha, as the Ramban emphasizes over and over, uniquely in this halacha, decides that this is the one halacha where we're going to allow you to test someone's innocence by miracle, right? But again, it is the opposite of trial by ordeal. It's not that you physically hurt somebody and then rely on miracles to heal them. Rather, you put them in a totally neutral situation, which if it were not for the miracle, nothing would happen one way or the other. You rely on the miracle in order for it to do anything, right? To actually act as a judge of the sin, right? As a consequence of the sin, right? So that's the first point to notice, is that Sotah, even if it is unique and seems like trial by ordeal, it is the Torah's response to trial by ordeal, right? We have it in no other halacha in the Torah, and the one time we do have it, right, it is put in such a way that is the opposite of the barbaric practices of the classic trial by ordeal. Okay, that's one point that's worth noting. Now the Ramban over and over emphasizes that this is unique. Right? This is the only time that we do this. Right? Hence, it doesn't always work. Right? The Gemara talks about this. That only when there was when there weren't too many minafim and it was rare. So then you could have Sotah. If it's not rare, we don't do it. Right? You have to be a very holy nation to be worthy of having Sotah work. It's the irony, right? You would think that if more people are involved in promiscuous activities, so then you would do it more. No, it's like it is a privilege that God provides miracles. Yosef.
No, sorry, it's 5 days from now.
AB. Okay. Like I said, there are a lot of points you can make on Sotahs. I'll make one more. Why? Right? Why, of all things in life, would this be the one that God provides a miracle for?
Because it could be very destructive if you don't know.
Good. So one factor is that it's very destructive, right? And this is Chazal emphasize this, right? That God is willing to have His name erased so that there will be shalom in Ish Le'isho, right? It's destructive, right? The Torah really cares about there being peace in a marriage, and therefore provides this means by which you can restore peace to a marriage. What else?
Why is it only on the woman, not the man?
Hold that thought for a second, but
It's not also for the man.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
No, it's not. Also for the man to see with another girl.
I know, I'm asking. Like,
Yes, why the Isser isn't?
yeah, I'm saying, like, would that be a problem of Ishli, like of Shalom? If it's
so the Torah doesn't.
halachically,
So the Torah doesn't love.
I know. I'm trying to get to the why.
The Torah doesn't love polygamy, right? Even if it allows it, but
He said halachic. You got to slap it.
but I mean, look. Ostensibly, it may very rarely work that one can have more than one wife and have peace. That would be what the stories in Tanakh tell you pretty clearly. It didn't work well any time. Right, there is no record in Tanakh of good marriages that I can think of. Yeah, of good marriages with more than one wife, just none. Right, zero. Right. Abram didn't have a good marriage with two wives, and Yaakov didn't. What? No, but theoretically, right, you could have peace within a marriage, right, even multiple wives. Right, you sort of get that with it. I mean, right. Ostensibly, Elkanah and Chana had a somewhat good marriage, despite the fact there was a second wife there. Right, Penina. Right? Now, it wasn't perfect, right? That's always the point, right? It never quite works well once you have someone else in the picture.
Then why is it different for... why is
I think... Well, so that maybe we can talk about that tomorrow. It's a bit of a broader story. But let's posit it's at least possible. Right? First of all, most marriages in Tanakh, right, are monogamous. Right? And even if they're not, right, it's still possible to, right, understand that there would be peace within a marriage that would be broken by adultery. Right? But why? So part of it is that, you know, the Torah cares about peace in the marriage. Again, we'll leave aside for a moment the fact that, yeah, peace in a marriage looks different in a polygamous marriage than in a monogamous marriage. That's I think for sure true. The Torah, right? Again, the way Chazal put it is that Kadosh Baruch Hu was willing to have His name erased to bring back shalom. But what else? There's one more aspect of it that I think is important to realize, and that is. I just push it a little bit farther. Right? One is the question of value, right? How much do we value the end result? But then there's another question here, not of value, but of process, which is...
How do we value the process?
No, we don't value process. Is that, right, in most areas, like let's say in a court setting, right, you don't know whether someone's guilty. What's the worst that'll happen? Nothing. They'll let them go, right? What happens if, as the Psukim describe, a husband actually suspects his wife of adultery, but has no proof either way? So, then what happens?
He's going to divorce her?
Well, not necessarily, right? Because he has no proof, right? And therefore he may not want to divorce her because he may not want to pay the ksuba, right? Or he may not divorce her because he's not sure. I mean, what there's going to be is a cloud of uncertainty over the marriage.
He's not chayav to divorce her, he just suspects her, isn't he?
No. He's not chayav to divorce her, right? And therefore, since he's not chayav, he will still have to pay the ksuba, right? And he may not do it, right? And he may not be sure, right? So Rav Samet argues that part of it is not just that the Torah really cares about marriage. It does, right? But it's that the nature of adultery almost always, right? You sometimes forget this when you read the Gemara, right? As if every time adultery happened, there were two witnesses there, right? And they were saying, they were warning them. Realistically, usually adultery happens when there are no witnesses, right? And you don't know about it. It's the type of thing, right? If you read the Psukim, the reason that you need it is not just because we care about the result of a happy marriage, but because once a woman is suspected by her husband, legitimately or not, of adultery, right? There's going to be a cloud hovering over that marriage. And therefore, the fact that the Torah comes and says, this is the instance in which I'm going to provide a miracle, it's not just we care about the result, it's because, in this particular case, if I don't provide a miracle, right, essentially, there's nothing you can do.
Is it the same
right?
reason?
What?
Is that the same reason?
Like I said, but I said there's the two things, right? One is process, one is the result. Meaning we care about the result, and in this case, if we don't provide a miracle, right? Meaning there could be cases, let's say somewhere else, right? The Torah cares about Shalom Bayit. Right? Chazal care about Shalom Bayit. Right? That's what we're saying. Therefore, they instituted Shabbos candles. right? Because right. That's not a miracle, right? It's just that just proves that we care about the result, right? But we don't need a miracle there because
I could say
my point is you need two, right? One is we need to really care about the result, and the second is that in this case, to achieve the result, you need a miracle, right? That's right. Those are right. I think that's. I just wanted to highlight that those are two distinct points, right? You need both. Right, you need both that this is the type of thing where the result is worthy of a miracle, and practically where you need a miracle to solve the problem, right? If you could solve the problem by marital counseling, right, so then that might be what you would endorse. But the problem with adultery is that it's actually very hard to pin down whether it happened, and therefore it just creates
doubt.
Right? It creates doubt. It's just shrouded in mystery and mistrust. Right? So those are, I think, the 2 points that I'd raise. Right? One is the trial by ordeal. This is really the opposite. And the second is, despite that, the fact that we use this unique procedure that relies on miracles, right, highlights both the importance of the result of the happy marriage and just the reality of the fact that trying to actually be mevarer whether adultery happened is often so difficult as to, once a husband suspects his wife, to leave the marriage shrouded in mistrust, unless, right, you sort of come up with, right, a miracle from the outside. Okay, maybe we'll talk more about Sotah tomorrow because there are other points to cover, but for now.